In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro asserted that 12 years after Commander Hugo Chavez passing, his legacy and the Bolivarian Revolution lives on. The government of Palestine denounces the Israeli regime for imposing apartheid in the occupied West Bank. Argentina experiences a second massive blackout in the city of Buenos Aires, and Casa Rosada was also affected. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro asserted that 12 years after Commander Hugo Chavez passing, his legacy and the Bolivarian Revolution live on. During the Assembly of Communes, the Venezuelan head of state, together with thousands of Venezuelan men and women who marched from different points in Caracas to gather at the 4F Mountain Barracks, paid tribute to the memory of Commander Hugo Chavez Frias. President Maduro also affirmed that the people continue standing victorious and moving forward in the 21st century revolution in Latin America and the Caribbean. The Venezuelan president also highlighted the implementation of a special drive to communal banks and the productive projects.
Now, at this time, still all the mobilizations are coming with men and women, working men and women, people from the communes and young people and indigenous people are coming to pay tribute to the immortal spirit of Hugo Chavez. Unforgettable, immortal, the victorious commander, eternal commander of all battles.
In another part of his address, the Venezuelan president praised the legacy of Commander Hugo Chavez and said that the historic Bolivarian leader will live on for decades.
Because every day that a child or a young person comes and goes to school and receives his or her education, public education, there is Chavez alive, because he brought the public education to the people. And every time that someone from the neighborhood wakes up and comes to participate and discovers everything that the new democracy has to offer, of the participative democracy, there in that democracy that is being born, that today gains strength, there in that construction of a democratic and modern state, a communal state, there is Chavez alive, and he will be alive for years, for decades.
President Maduro also took time to highlight teleSUR's wide coverage of the carnivals in Latin America and the Caribbean and congratulate the employees and the presidency of the multinational media outlet for what he described as a great job.
teleSUR was great. As Celia said it, they did a great job, teleSUR. Really, that is why you are truly the best channel for, as international character for Latin America and the Caribbean, also to the workers, to the journalists and their president, Patricia Villegas.
The Venezuelan president also rejected the recent U.S. sanctions against the oil company Chevron and said that with that measure, Washington is hurting itself while Venezuela continues to grow.
And the Bolivarian Revolution, in the framework of the law, made a great agreements with the U.S. enterprise Chevron, and now it was sanctioned. The U.S. government sanctions a U.S. company trying to hurt the Venezuelan economy, and they try to hurt, and they're hurting themselves because we continue to grow and we continue to develop, and nothing will stop us.
And Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel also joined those who praised the legacy of Commander Hugo Chavez. The Cuban leader wrote on X, "One lives but does not live." said the best friend of Cuba, and 12 years after his painful departure, we can confirm it. Chavez lives in the hearts of its people and of all those who believe that a better world is possible if we fight to achieve it. On the other hand, Bolivia's President Luis Arce also joined the international praise of Commander Hugo Chavez's legacy 12 years after his passing. In an official communique, the Bolivian leader expressed, "On a day like today, 12 years ago, Hugo Chavez, historic leader of the Bolivarian Revolution, departed to eternity. During his life, he fought tirelessly to build a more just and egalitarian Venezuela. He embraced the socialist ideology and revitalized it for the 21st century. Like few others, he strove for a genuine Latin Caribbean continental integration and to spread the thought of Simón Bolívar together with Fidel Castro. He was the founder of ALBA and the driving force behind SALAC. In Bolivia, he supported the process of change that the people opened with the struggle. His work and thought gathered in speeches, interviews, television addresses, and other documents are essential material for the formation of socialist women and men of this continent today. Everlasting glory to Hugo Chavez." And in Venezuela, a recent poll conducted by Interlaces, an agency specialized in public opinion studies, markets, and consulting, shows that the majority of Venezuelans reject illegal sanctions imposed on the nation. The survey asks, do you agree or disagree that the United States imposes economic and financial sanctions against the people with the aim of ousting President Nicolas Maduro? 87% of those polled rejected the use of sanctions against the Venezuelan people, with only 9% saying they agreed with the coercive measures, and 4% chose not to respond. The poll's results show the will of the Venezuelan people to create their own future free of sanctions and foreign interference. We now have our first short break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. The government of Palestine denounces the Israeli regime for imposing apartheid in the occupied West Bank. The Ministry of Foreign Expatriates Affairs of Palestine stated in a communique that the Zionist incursions affect the daily life of residents by controlling their movements inside cities, villages, and camps. The text emphasized that Tel Aviv's actions represent an atrocious punishment against the Palestinian people and resemble apartheid regimes. The entity condemned the silence of the international community in the face of the situation in the West Bank, especially those nations that claim to defend human rights. And the Palestinian Authority's Detainees and Ex-Detainees Affairs Commission accused Wednesday Israeli Prison Service of committing torture and humiliation against Palestinian detainees in their prisons. The commission criticized the precarious conditions in Ofer prison in the occupied West Bank. Moreover, the entity condemned an Israeli raid on cells which came along with truncheons and gas spraying. Grounded in detainees were demanding medical treatment to one of the inmates. Likewise, released Palestinian journalists recounted the torture they had gone through. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates urged the United Nations Independent International Commission of Inquiry in the occupied Palestinian territory to mull over the high death toll in Israeli prisons. The forest fire in Ofunato, northeastern Japan, has consumed 2,900 hectares and forced the evacuation of 4,600 people. More than 2,000 firefighters from all over the country are taking part in the firefighting efforts to prevent the flames from spreading to residential areas. Snow began to fall in the early hours on Wednesday morning, preventing helicopters from continuing their work due to lack of visibility. According to Meteorological Observatory, it is expected that the next precipitation will help to extinguish the flames. For the moment, the initial total of 1 dead and 84 houses damaged remains unchanged. And more than 76,000 people in Ecuador affected by heavy rains and 21 rivers overflowing. The National Secretariat for Risk Management is maintaining a red alert in 6 of Ecuador's 24 provinces following the death of at least 14 people. They also report that more than 20,000 homes have been affected and around 1,000 hectares of crops have been lost due to the devastating rains. According to the National Institute of Meteorology and Hydrology, the rains will continue over the next few days until March 7th along the coast and in the highlands. And in Mexico, more than 170 forest fires have been recorded in the north of the country. Local authorities report that at least 10 people have been arrested for causing some of the fires that broke out in the early hours of Wednesday morning. The fire brigade and civil protection are working to extinguish the active fires, which are mainly caused by high temperatures and strong winds. The authorities report at least 6 people suffering from smoke poisoning, material damage, power cuts, and interruptions to the drinking water supply. And we have a second short break coming up before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. Argentina experiences a second massive blackout in the city of Buenos Aires and Casa Rosada seat of government. The authorities reported that the blackout occurred around 6 o'clock in the morning and in the afternoon before 1 p.m. local time. A second blackout occurred affecting thousands of users. The nation's Congress is also suffering the consequences of the blackout, with intermittent outages and no telephone or internet networks functioning. Authorities warned that the blackout has caused traffic chaos due to the lack of power at traffic lights, as well as the collapse of high-voltage power lines along the coast, which has affected several substations in the country. The Mexican government points out that the country is facing a defining moment after the entry into force of the tariff measure imposed by U.S. President Donald Trump. President Claudia Sheinbaum said that she could get other trade partners, such as Canada, if the 25% tariff remains in force. The president affirmed that there will be no submission on the part of the Mexican nation, highlighting that the country's economy is doing well. In addition, the head of state said that she will wait for the call with her U.S. counterpart on Thursday, March 6, with the aim of suspending the tariff measures.
What I can tell you is that this is a very decisive moment for Mexico, subject to what happens these days. Until Sunday, there won't be solutions. Mexico is a great country. We, Mexicans, are brave and we resist. The Mexican people is very strong and our economy is doing well. But we will not be submissive. And if the situation does not change, we will look to Canada and other countries.
On the other hand, the Mexican head of state affirmed that her government did what it had to do to keep the dialogue with the United States open.
We did our homework. We have not even closed the doors of dialogue. Far from it. Because those doors have to be open all the time. We have carried out coordinations. And we reached many agreements during this month. But despite that, there is a decision by the U.S. government to unilaterally impose a 25% blanket tariff. This is not our responsibility, it is a decision of the President of the United States that it is not only against Mexico. This is particularly against Canada. Against China, which yesterday responded very strongly. And the U.S. says that on April 2nd there will be reciprocal tariffs for other countries. That is to say that if a country imposes taxes on its imports from the United States, then the United States will impose tariffs on that country the same way.
With the purpose of raising awareness from an early age, Cuba starts a new campaign against gender violence called IES, in which the teenagers from the Caribbean island are the protagonists. Let's see more with our correspondent Fabiola Lopez.
Donde escuchen tus derechos, ahí es.
Donde escuchen tus opiniones, ahí es.
Donde te escuchen sin prejuicios.
Son apenas algunos de los mensajes.
IES is a campaign that focuses on Cuban teenagers and aims to contribute to the change of social imaginaries that legitimize gender-based violence. The initiative, which is coordinated by national and international organizations, includes debates on different expressions of gender violence and its effects, as well as the patriarchal roles and stereotypes at its core, offering tools to counter gender violence in everyday life.
What
distinguishes IES is that precisely the collective construction of all the messages have been led by Cuban adolescents, groups of young boys and girls who have gathered to think about the violence they experience nowadays and what positive messages they want to give against it, in favor of popular feminisms and counter-hegemonic masculinities.
Pues si la fe nos alcanza, llegamos a la igualdad.
Las líneas de mensajes de IES.
The campaign's messages motivate people to reflect on self-care, respect for diverse bodies, the construction of new masculinities, equitable interpersonal relationships, mutual help, support networks, and sisterhood. The project aims at the prevention, awareness, and understanding of these issues.
Va dirigida a sensibilizar, va dirigida.
It is meant to raise awareness, to look for tools and ways for our young people and adolescents to be able to solve all those contradictions, which are even described in the medical literature, and that occur at this age. It is also aimed at giving tools to the family on how to approach issues with adolescents.
Para formar parte de la campaña IES,
the renowned comic book character Lola Vendetta, which captures the social criticism for the invisibilization of women, came from Spain to take part in the IES campaign. Its creator, artist, and illustrator Raquel Riva created a mural together with teenagers from the island. IES will be present in social networks, but also in public spaces, communities, and mass media.
It has been wonderful working with them, very gratifying for me. And also very nice to see how they are leading the campaign from the inside themselves. I think that's the main difference. It has not been a project of adults explaining the world to teenagers, but a project of teenagers talking to the world.
It is a way to open the mind to go beyond the social networks. We were doing workshops with Raquel, the creator of Lola Vendetta. We were doing the murals, we painted, but this is just the beginning. The learning experience has been super intense and super cool.
La campaña IES.
The campaign will be implemented until 2026 in the provinces of Havana, Granma, Las Tunas, and Guantánamo. The adolescents who take part in the initiative say that their dream is simply to live in an inclusive world without gender violence, where the rights of all people are respected regardless of skin color, sexual orientation, gender identity, disabilities, place of residence, purchasing power, or access to technology. And to do so, they warn, they will try to tell their own stories in a different way and from their own perspectives.
Fabiola Lopez, teleSUR, La Habana.
Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.